wretch, we're wretch, we're the wretch. We pray at night, we stalk at night, we're the wretch.
I'm the giant rat that makes all of the rules.
Let's see what kind of trouble we can get ourselves into.
So Ratopia is a roguelike tower defense and city management amalgamation that sees you as the leader of a colony of rats after the last great civilization has fallen, the aptly named Ratopia. Once you begin, you only have the merchant leader unlocked. They're all about making money, raising taxes, and paying to make their problems go away. Their special units either give you a golden arrow or have the service modifier. Service essentially means that they're stronger than a normal unit, but they only stick around for a limited time. The golden arrows deal area damage to enemies that scales with tax, encouraging greed. Finally, their ability discards cards and grants 10% of your current total gold per card discarded, and their starting advisor lets them refresh the shop if you don't like the selection. So basically they're like the EA of the Ratopia leaders. After a bit of gameplay, you'll quickly unlock the rest of the leaders. The general is all about flooding your town with so many units that the enemies are powerless to stop you, while also buffing those rats. Their special unit type has an ability called Growth that causes them to transform into a more powerful version of themselves after a certain amount of kills. They also have cards that give Bounty, which gives a static increase to gold for each enemy killed. His active ability gives a temporary boost in health and attacks and military cards in your hand, which goes away after you discard or play them. And his advisor gives you 2 Radizens for each military card in your deck, which are the units that are used to summon your soldiers. The third leader is the Builder. They're pretty much just about spamming buildings and fortifying their positions. They get a large selection of attack buildings, and their unit's unique ability is not moving. So, you know, rather than charging to meet the enemy, they just kind of chill and wait for the enemy to come to them, which makes it easier for your combat buildings to get a hit because they have a limited range. The Builder active discards cards from their hand and replaces them with ephemeral building cards that will disappear after being played or discarded. Their advisor also lets them play a building on top of a duplicate of it to upgrade the building, which is pretty dope considering how hard building upgrades can be to come by, as well as the limited space that you get to build with. Now, the Scientist is a super special boy with a whole lot of unique powers. They've got Ratrons, units which have a special effect when they die, and they're basically like cyborgs. Then they've got special status effects called Tainted and Electron that increase the damage that enemies take and stack for burst damage, respectively. And their final special card type are Morph cards, whose effects change when you use your leader power while they're in hand. Speaking of their power, it lets them pick an ephemeral skill card from a selection that increases with each level of their leader power. Then, finally, their advisor reduces the cooldown on their leader power every time you play a skill card. Also, ephemeral means that they go away when you discard them or when you play them. And then up next is the creepiest of the leaders, the Shaman. They're all about harvesting the souls of their enemies and their people, and using them for dark magic to empower cards and activate buildings. Their special card effect is called Soul Siphon. It essentially means that while a card is in hand or a building is on the field, if a soul is collected, it is applied to all the applicable cards. Some buildings have activated effects after a certain number of souls, while some cards get things like extra attack or health for each soul siphoned. They also have an effect called Curse that, when applied to a unit including friendlies, does damage based on the number of stacks every 5 seconds. Their power grants souls equal to their leader level times the cards in the card tomb, and their advisor deals 5 damage to a random enemy when one of your boys dies. It's okay early on, but it's literally useless late game when everything has like 50 health and a massive comp. The Navigator. You must unlock the Navigator by winning 1 game because he has the potential to be the most overpowered unit in the entire game. His big thing is Stonk and ships. Stonk basically means that you can only play a card a certain number of times, and these cards generally end up being much more powerful than a unit of similar cost without stock. He also gets ships and quests. Ships do things such as give you a treasure chest after 2 minutes. That's balanced, yeah. They can also be used to replace cards in your deck with cards from other leaders, allowing for potentially busted combos. Quests, on the other hand, activate when you've either played a certain number of specific card types or have acquired enough cards of that type, and usually have overpowered effects once completed, like making buildings free to build while it's in hand or that kind of nonsense. The Navigator's leader power lets him restock cards in your hand, letting them be used more, and his advisor reduces draw cooldown based on the number of cards discarded when you redraw. Personally, I've really been enjoying Ratopia as it's quite the unique take on roguelike genre. The gameplay is a combination of a deck builder and a resource management game. You got cards that you play to create buildings, earn money, and summon units among other things, and as you only have a certain amount of buildable area, you have to decide what you want to build and when you should expand. The same goes for the Ratizens, which are used to summon units as well as do labor things, which can give you extra money or more Ratizens to do things with, or just generally very good effects. As enemies come from both sides, it becomes more and more difficult to manage as the game progresses, going through 3 stages of difficulty. The first 10 waves are fairly easy to beat, the next 10 have considerably stronger enemies, and then the final 10 are basically a war of attrition. On the final wave, you get a massive boss that's just like, a larger animal, such as like a snake, an owl, or a giant spider. So anyways, the game is very fun, and my only complaints would be some bugs I've encountered, such as my soldiers refusing to follow orders or being unable to expand my territory further after I specifically picked a skill that said it would let me do that. And even added, like, the stumps that show that I can expand it further. But no, the card just doesn't work. Oh, screw me. Anyway. Also, the shooting minigame has a hard cap of 400 gold that you can earn, even if you hit all the targets, which I think is kind of stupid, and I have no idea why they would put that in. Like, literally, it just, even if you have, like, 2 seconds left and you keep clicking targets, they show them getting hit, but the gold doesn't go up. It's dumb. Anyways, if you enjoy deck builders or roguelikes, I'd really suggest giving Ratropolis a try. And for the final score, I give it 4 out of 5.